the movie that got banned after one screening. There's a film from 1974 that almost nobody has seen, and those who have never quite forget it. It premiered once at an international film festival in Perth, Australia, and the reaction was so intense, so angry, that the government banned it immediately, a ban that still stands. The movie has no dialogue, shot in stark black and white on an abandoned farm in Belgium. It feels more like a fever dream than a film. It drifts between loneliness, obsession, and the breakdown of reality. Its director, Thierry Zeno, had a fascination with the morbid and the uncomfortable. In fact, after this film, he went on to make a documentary entirely about decay and the passage of time. This film became a legend in underground cinema circles. Rare screenings here and there, whispered discussions, arguments, walkouts. Some call it horror, others call it art, and a few say it even came before Eraserhead in its surreal, disturbing tone. It's not a movie you watch for entertainment. It's a movie that tests you, and if you do seek it out, just know, it's not something you can unsee.
The creepiest Nickelodeon cartoon I grew up with. Real monsters. When I was little, real monsters scared me more than anything. The voices, the figures, the way the monsters smile, it all felt too real. But I couldn't stop watching. Something about them fascinated me. They were weird, gross, different. They always looked more realistic in my imagination. At night, I'd think about them. I'd imagine Ikis hiding under my bed, Ablina peeking from my closet, Crumb breathing behind my pillow. When my thoughts got too dark, I took cover beneath the only protection a child truly believes in, the blanket. Despite their creepiness, there was a deeper message about growing up, feeling different, and learning to accept yourself. It ran for 4 seasons and became a cult classic that still holds up for fans who love the strange side of childhood nostalgia.
Charlie, will I ever see you again?
Sure. Sure you will, kid. You know, goodbyes aren't forever.
Then, goodbye, Charlie. I love you.
Yeah. I love you too.
Judith Barcy, a promising young actress whose life was cut short at the age of 10, continues to resonate deeply even decades after her death. Judith, known for her roles as Ducky in The Land Before Time and Anne-Marie in All Dogs Go to Heaven, was a rising star in Hollywood. However, behind her success lay a dark and tumultuous family life that ended in an unimaginable tragedy. Joseph Barchi, her father, who had allegedly had a history of violent behavior, had ended by gun both his wife and daughter before lighting the house on fire and turning the gun on himself in the garage. As Judith's career flourished, so did her father's rage and jealousy. Joseph's abusive behavior escalated, and Judith began to exhibit signs of extreme distress. "I'm afraid to go home," Judith told family friends months before her end. "My daddy is miserable. My daddy is drunk every day, and I know he wants to take away my mother." Her mother, Maria, confided in friends and family that Joseph was becoming increasingly unhinged, but attempts to get help from authorities fell tragically short. Judith's final film was All Dogs Go to Heaven, in which she voiced Anne-Marie, an orphan with the ability to talk to animals. The movie was released posthumously. There are some unverified rumors claimed that the film's star, Burt Reynolds, had apparently not recorded his last bit of dialogue with Judith. The scene, which involves dog Charlie saying goodbye to Anne-Marie, was allegedly an emotional, real-life goodbye for Reynolds. Reynolds had asked for a closed studio, which meant it would just be him and the audio engineer present at the time. They would end up losing track of how many takes it took Burt Reynolds to get through the scene without breaking down. It wasn't Charlie saying goodbye to Anne-Marie. It was Burt Reynolds saying goodbye to Judith Barcy. Hypnerotomia is an extraordinary work. Creepy labyrinths of dreamlike subconsciousness and a parade of all kinds of monsters. One of the most terrifying animated films ever made about nightmares. This is what true dreamlike visualization should look like. Horror, horror, and more horror, pushed to the absolute limit. The word hypnerotomia translates as the strife of love in a dream, while in the film the definition takes on an opposite meaning. illustrating closely love's strife with the dream. Despite the shortness of duration, it gives you food for thought as it permeates with Freudian symbolism. This work needs to be rewatched several times, not only to notice scrambled details, but to understand its themes as a whole. The era of such cartoons peaked in the late 1980s and early 1990s, when dark and frightening themes were especially popular. Nowadays, remembering these kinds of animations is something only true film enthusiasts tend to do. Still, for some, this eerie and gritty style feels far more authentic than the sterile world of modern computer animation. It begins with an ending. September 21st, 1945. A teenage boy named Sator collapses in a train station. As his body fades, his voice tells us the date of his death. But the story doesn't stop there. We go back to when Sator lived with his little sister Setsuko. Their father was away in the Navy. Their mother burned alive in an American bombing raid. Sator saw her body covered in bandages, but chose to hide the truth from Setsuko. From that moment on, he became her protector. At first, the children stayed with their aunt, but her patience quickly turned to cruelty. She reminded them constantly that they were just mouths to feed. She fed her own family generously, while Sator and Setsuko lived on scraps. Eventually, Sator had enough. He took his sister, and together they left to survive alone. They discovered an abandoned shelter near a river. For a short time, it felt like paradise. They played, cooked simple meals, and at night they filled the shelter with glowing fireflies. To Setsuko, it was magic. To Sator, it was hope. But the next morning, all the fireflies were dead. Setsuko buried them, whispering that their mother was buried too. But freedom had a price. Hunger set in. Sator begged, stole, even risked his life running through bombings to gather food. His hands bled, his body starved, but nothing was enough. Setsuko grew weaker, covered in rashes, too tired to play, too sick to smile. A doctor gave Sator a cruel truth. Medicine couldn't help. What she needed was food, and food was nearly impossible to find. When Sator finally returned with rice, he found Setsuko lying weakly on the ground. He gave her sweets, tried to cheer her, promised her dinner. She whispered, "Thank you," and never opened her eyes again. Sator cremated her, placing her ashes in a small candy tin, the same tin that once held her favorite fruit drops. The film ends where it began. Sator, lifeless in a train station, clutching that tin. Around him, other forgotten children lie dying, and above them, fireflies rise into the night sky. Grave of the Fireflies isn't just about two kids. It's about war, about innocence, and how the brightest lives can vanish in an instant like fireflies in the dark. This cartoon terrified me throughout my entire childhood. Yet, no matter how scared I got, I just couldn't tear myself away from the screen. Every evening, as soon as I heard that eerie opening theme, I froze. The sound alone gave me goosebumps. By the second episode, I already knew the exact time it aired, and still, I kept watching. Each story felt like a nightmare come to life. Strange visitors, supernatural creatures, distorted faces, and surreal colors that made everything look off. Every time I told myself I wasn't afraid anymore, something new appeared, something even darker, even weirder. The animation style itself was unsettling. The empty fields, the lonely house in the middle of nowhere, and that endless purple sky that seemed to swallow everything. And then there was Courage, that silly, pink, yet unbelievably brave, dog. Despite his constant fear, he always faced the unknown to protect the only family he had. Eustace Bagg, the grumpy old farmer, who never appreciated him. And Muriel Bagg, the gentle, loving woman, who was Courage's whole world. Looking back, the show wasn't just scary, it was strangely emotional. It talked about fear, loneliness, and the courage to fight it, even when no one believes you. Maybe that's why I couldn't stop watching.
Let's talk about the hidden meaning behind The Devil's Advocate, 1997. On the surface, it looks like just a supernatural thriller, but it's much deeper. The film is about temptation, power, and the dark secrets of the elite. The main character, Kevin Lomax, is a young lawyer who never loses. For money and reputation, he defends even the guilty. His turning point comes when he clears a teacher accused of crimes against minors. Right after that, he's hired by John Milton, the head of a powerful law firm, who is revealed to be the devil himself. From that moment, Kevin is tested again and again. He defends a Satanist who performs rituals, and later a billionaire who murdered his own family. Each victory pulls him deeper into corruption. Milton shows Kevin the world of the Elite pyramid of power, where the devil rules at the top. Vanity and ambition consume him. Just as Milton says, "Vanity is my favorite sin." In the end, Kevin realizes too late that his choices destroyed his wife, his morals, and himself. He tries to escape, but temptation follows him in another form. The message, evil doesn't always come with horns. It comes disguised as wealth, fame, and opportunity. And the real battle between good and evil is fought inside each of us.
This surreal Soviet art house animation. It is about a man whose wife is a hen, but with some human features and abilities. The couple live in isolation with their pet, which seems like a crossover between a human, a dog, and a bug. Despite having a beak, chicken feet, and a bird-like figure, the hen's husband is mostly unaware that he's married to a hen until a visitor enters their home. It will blow your mind with questions and anxiety, as the only element which is common to the human eye is a background filled with home appliances. The characters: a blue-skinned man, a caterpillar with a human face, a pale stranger, and a woman covered with fears are all a figment of feverish imagination. The same goes with all the interactions the characters make with each other playing games. Flooding a room, the awkward dialogues which can't be missed. Despite the oddness and surrealism, the toughness of family life seeps through the screen. There's an old animated film called When the Wind Blows. At first, it looks slow and even boring. Just an elderly couple, Jim and Hilda, living peacefully in an English village during the 1980s. But behind their quiet life is the looming threat of nuclear war. Jim buys a newspaper warning of possible missile strikes in just 2 days. But instead of panicking, he clings to government pamphlets full of survival tips. Why? Because both he and Hilda survived World War II, and they believe instructions will save them again. They genuinely think stacking doors with pillows could protect them from a nuclear blast. Jim calls his son, trying to warn him, but the son laughs it off. He knows if the bombs drop, nobody survives. Still, Jim and Hilda trust the system. They paint windows, stock water, and follow every step calmly, almost like it's a chore list. Then, the radio announces it. Missiles are inbound. 3 minutes to impact. The explosion scene is terrifying. Everything wiped away in seconds, while Hilda worries only about her pie burning in the oven. They don't even grasp what just happened. After the blast, they act like nothing's wrong. They wait for the newspaper, expect the milkman, convince themselves their son is alive. But radiation sickness begins to creep in. Headaches, nausea, weakness. Jim explains it all away as shock. Their denial becomes heartbreaking. Finally, Hilda suggests hiding in sacks to protect themselves. Jim agrees, remembering the pamphlet mentioned sacks. But he forgot one thing. Those sacks were meant to cover corpses. The film ends with them climbing inside, praying, as the screen fades out. It's one of the most haunting depictions of nuclear war ever made. Not with armies or cities, but through two ordinary people, too naive and trusting to realize they were doomed from the start.